Okay, so the founder of Studio Bones recently said something that is pretty controversial. Some might say, yo dog, he is wilding out. What is he saying? Others might be like, well, he kind of has a point, because what he said recently in an interview kind of made me look at the whole situation of the anime industry as a whole and be like, damn, things is really bad right now. But in general, it's kind of crazy to hear the founder of a studio that has brought you anime like My Hero Academia, Mob Psycho 100, Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and many other classic anime, kind of talking a little bit what some might say reckless about the workers, the animators that animate on projects in general, because, well, homie isn't for the animators that are complaining and speaking up as of recent. We'll put it like that. And before we get any deeper, if you would hit that subscribe button and that bell, I'd greatly appreciate it. I talk about everything and anything in the world of anime and manga, so hit them buttons. Thank you so much. But in case you're new to the scene, and even if you're not, the anime and manga industry, but especially the anime industry with animators, has been widely criticized for many a years now about the harsh labor conditions of being an animator and the low wages. We've spoke about this probably already for at least a decade now on animators. Every now and then back in the day we used to get a story. Now it's becoming a little more rampant of animators speaking up and saying these work conditions are unacceptable, working 60-hour weeks for less than minimum wage. Just a lot of horrible horror stories have come out of animators speaking of, like Mappa Studios. When they first started developing, there was allegations that they were making basically a studio where the animators could live there, so they could essentially just live their lives animating non-stop, which again is insane to even think of. Like, yo dog, people need a rest, people need to go home, people need a break, people need good wages, people need to not work their entire freaking lives. So a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, and in general the anime industry has not been the nicest or the kindest to animators, especially the ones that speak up. I gotta imagine that a lot of the ones that finally chime in and say, yo dog, it's been bad, they usually don't go on to make bigger and better projects and all that stuff, because it's a tight-knit industry, and I'm sure many of the execs feel the same way. But what this founder of Studio Bones recently said, yeah, I think we got to take a look and talk about it, because it's kind of cray-cray. My Hero Academia studio founder shares controversial take and wild interview. The conditions of animators in the anime industry is a topic that has long since been discussed as the medium has gained traction worldwide. Of all the studios that have gained prominence in Japan and worldwide, Studio Bones is one of the biggest, as the production house is responsible for the likes of My Hero Academia, Mob Psycho, Full Metal Alchemist. Next year, the production house is preparing to introduce another big anime, Gachi Akuta. In case you haven't heard about that one, it's a Kodansha title that's been making waves for quite some time, and it's a pretty dope manga from what I read the first few chapters, along with My Hero Academia's final season. In a new interview that fans might find quite controversial, Bones co-founder Toshihiro Kawamoto disparaged those who have complained about animators' work conditions. And I really want to go in so bad already, like, dog, like, oh, they have it bad, but let's just continue. Let's go. In a recent interview with German outlet Anime Spiegel, Kawamoto didn't pull punches on those complaining about work conditions in the anime world. I know that there is a lot of writing on the internet about the difficult conditions. In my opinion, those who often complain loudly are those who are not yet good enough. If they improve their skills, they would also have more time for their task and would earn more money. But this is really my own personal opinion, independent of Studio Bones. And before we continue any further, wow, I can already see, at the very least, of the people that their hearts and their, you know, prayers are with the animators and whatnot, they're not gonna like this. A lot of people aren't gonna like this in general. Even if you have a shred of empathy or sympathy or just feelings for the animators, you're not gonna like hearing this, because obviously there's some industries where yes, your skills can take you further and all sorts of different things. But with the anime industry in particular, sure, being a quality artist and being able to produce quality is definitely a mega plus, but they work on a essentially pay by, if I'm not mistaken, how many cuts they deliver, how many animation pieces they deliver, and in general, even some of the people that work the fastest while still maintaining quality ultimately aren't seeing the craziest amount of revenues, but let alone the people that are entry levels. Entry levels should never mean basically feeling like you a damn slave. I'm sorry. And from what I've heard from most of these animators that I've spoke out over years upon years, animators. Like, this isn't an isolated incident. This isn't 1 or 2 stories. This isn't 3 or 4 stories. This is years upon years of different animators speaking out and saying, yo, this is unacceptable. I mean, it's been back and forth on whether or not it was due to being the director of Attack on Titan, but there was that case where the director of Attack on Titan showed up on stage with giant bags under his eyes, and a lot of people were saying, hey, it must be because he's living under Mappa Studios' new studio where you're locked in there and living in there. And it would have been different if homie would have said if they improved their skills, they would be able to get promotions or something like that. But the way, you know, if they improved their skills, they would have more time for their task and would earn more money. That just sounds crazy, ridiculous, and this dude definitely doesn't have any empathy and is out of touch in general with what's happening with the animators. Now, I'm not saying that animators should be paid $1 billion a cell that they draw or any crazy stuff like that, but they should get their fair share, and also paying them fairly, treating them like, I don't know, people, you know, actual living, breathing organisms will actually encourage more people to want to be animators. Because another problem in the anime industry right now is that there's not enough animators out there to fill all of these projects and these deadlines that a lot of these anime have. And partially that is probably due to the fact that who the heck, after hearing all of the horror stories of being an animator, would actually be inspired and say, you know what, I want to work for 60 hours a week to make less than $1,000 a month. Nobody wants to do that, period. And so to say that if they improve their skills, they would make more money and have more time, that is just foolishness. A lot of these animators, even from the stories, they say they're working as fast as they possibly can with trying not to sacrifice quality and still can barely get by. And sometimes they just don't get by. It's because they live with their parents or something like that. Like, there's just so many different scenarios here that make this quote alone right here sounds so horribly. But let's continue. This makes for quite the departure from the mentality that many other animators and those in the industry have shared in recent years. And I guess I just want to throw in there as well real quickly before we carry on that Studio Bones has been winning for a long time. My Hero Academia is one of the most popular anime right now. In fact, as far as Shonen Battle series, it is the most popular ranking anime. Like, Dragon Ball Daima recently debuted with its first episode, a new Dragon Ball anime, and it was tied with My Hero Academia from Studio Bones beating out the debut of a new Dragon Ball anime in ratings. So him winning, him being at the top, I think he's very much so disconnected from what the animators below him are going through. Anime working conditions, do they pass the bar? Toshihiro continues, stating that he believes that industry standards have improved significantly since earlier days in the medium. When I think about it, I actually think that conditions are much better today than they were in the past. The government has put a lot of regulations in place when it comes to working overtime and the like. Even if you want to work through the night and draw pictures, you aren't allowed to do that. Of course, you can see it as a negative thing that such regulations were necessary in the first place. On the other hand, they led to the necessary changes. Nowadays, anime studios are given a lot more budget and, above all, time. So I think things have gotten better. And I will admit, I've heard murmurings and I've heard stuff about, like, you know, the Japanese government getting involved and all of that jazz. But it wasn't even that long ago, maybe a few months back earlier in the year, where Studio Mappa employees were basically being blocked and getting gag orders that they're not allowed to speak out. And it's just been horrible. Like, things have gotten so bad over there that it's been more of a common occurrence that they're actually freelancing animators from outside of Japan via online in order to get some of the work done. And that's because there's not an abundance of people that are lining up around the block to say, hey, I want to be treated like a slave just so I could draw. Like, always follow your passions. Of course, what you're passionate about is going to lead you to the quote-unquote promised land that you seek. But if it is in turn at the cost of basically slaving yourself, that's when you got to start taking a step back and be like, wait a minute, hold up. And the fact that he's like talking about laws and stuff like that, hey, you know, if it wasn't for them going through all these horrible things, they wouldn't have made laws in order to stop people from drawing overtime. And the fact that most of these people were working overtime is probably because they couldn't afford to work the regular hours and still pay all their bills and whatnot while doing animation. So those people that was working overtime throughout the night was just to get by. Woo, child, I could rant about this all day. Also, him saying that anime studios are given a lot more of a budget, above all, more time. I'd imagine budgets probably is due to the fact that there has been a massive anime explosion over the last handful of years, so there's probably more money in terms of, you know, the Netflixes of the world and all of these studios that they want to be a part of it and they're throwing money. But time, I don't know. They've been rushing things out the door for years upon years. I mean, maybe some of the Shonen Jump titles are having a little more time to cook before coming out, but kind of seems like a bunch of baloney. Studio Bones has been in the news as of late, not just thanks to My Hero Academia's anime on the small and silver screens, but thanks in part to its recent expansion. Earlier this month, the company opened up its own film division dubbed Bones Film Company, established specifically to aid the production house in creating work for the big screen. You think homie is going to be expanding his company and being like, oh yeah, feel bad for the animators, we should pay them more. This is crazy. There have been quite a few stories written in recent years discussing aspects of the anime industry that many people believe could be improved. The work conditions, the pay for animators, and the fact that the sheer amount of production being offered doesn't have enough staff to handle the project are only a few instances that we reported on. Studio Mappa, with its recent Jujutsu Kaisen season, had numerous animators discussing the difficulty in hitting deadlines and the effort that was needed to bring Yuji Itadori and his friends' battle to life. Like I said, Studio Mappa employees have been speaking out recently, and there was a lot of gag orders being hit on them. Anime is only growing more popular with each passing year as manga sales and audiences to anime episodes and or films continue to grow. Hopefully, with the uptick in resources that are being devoted to the medium, more conditions will continue to improve for those who help make our favorite anime adaptations. And I'm gonna be honest, this article kind of sounds like it was a little bit pro what homie is saying, because the only aspect I will say is that yes, of course, if you improve, eventually you will be recognized ideally for your work, your quality, and they will give you, you know, promotion, so to speak. You'll go from just a regular entry-level animator, maybe if you're lucky you'll be an entry-level animator that is kind of being taught and you're learning before they actually put you straight on to anime full projects. And then as you continue to grow and your quality increases, eventually, you know, you go up to a regular animator, then maybe you could be an anime director, a producer, so on and so forth. But honestly, it just sounds like it's a nightmare. And personally, when I was younger, there was that passing thought, I'm sure like many of you right now listening, oh man, it'd be cool to be an animator, that seems like so much fun. It's not. It's horrible. I think this dude is completely off base, out of touch in terms of basically saying, hey, get gooder, that's the way to get paid in anime. No. But let me know what you guys think about this. Am I off base on here? Is this guy right that, you know, the anime industry has improved, so there's no need, and the people that are speaking out, basically, they're not that good? Like, that's the crazy one too, that he's basically like taking a dump on all of the people that spoke out. Like, they wouldn't be a part of these projects, especially, for example, the Studio Mappa animators that have spoke out earlier this year. They wouldn't be a part of these projects. They wouldn't be animating for Studio Mappa if there wasn't a level of quality that they're bringing to the table to begin with. So to kind of take a dump on the animators and say basically that the reason they're complaining is that they're not good, that's crazy. That's wild, and I don't approve of that. I don't agree with that. Yeah, of course, increase your quality. Yes, of course, improve and work on your craft, but that does not mean, and that is no excuse for animators to be treated in such ways that they have been in the past. And the founder of Studio Bones, I get it, you up, I get it, things is going great, you just created a new division, a film division for Studio Bones, but at the expense, at the cost, and off the backs of all of these animators that are going through hell to bring these animations to life. It's not cool, and yeah, I don't approve of that. I'm sorry if I ranted on this one, but I just had to say what I had to say because this is how I felt. Now can you tell me I really wanna